And here we are.
Beautiful. I like how we
Ta-da!
in anticipation, we just sit there and we just stare at each other like, is this going to work? Is this going
I'm
to work?
always waiting to see if I'm always waiting to see if it's going to pause, which it always does.
Yeah. So I was thinking about this earlier. This is episode 8 already.
Yeah.
Good gosh.
It's
Time is
episode 8. The coaches check-ins. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
Yep.
That is crazy to me. So we are how many months into this are we now with 3 coaches? We are 3.5 months into this.
Let's see. March. 3 months.
3 months? Good gosh almighty. Now I'm gonna start right off with like the $1 million question, just to like drop this onto the first thing.
What?
Do you still think 3 coaches was your best decision?
Yes.
Okay. If you were to go back and see, I love that. I think too, because like getting into it, I remember when you and I first talked, right? It could be overwhelming, but the fact that you knew exactly what you needed.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask what you've learned about yourself with each coach independently?
Yeah. Let's see. Miranda, I haven't been working with as long. I've only been working with her a couple weeks now. 3 weeks. But from the movement side, let's just call it the movement side, right? Because Pete was the coach before that. I always thought that maybe I wasn't pushing myself enough, but I'm learning that wasn't necessarily the case. I think there was a part of me that thought that I was overly cautious. Maybe in some areas I am, but a lot of the suggestions and stuff that's going to the coaches or, hey, here's what I'm thinking has been coming back okay. So I'm learning that, I'm getting better at doing more Athena appropriate things, which is good. Carolyn, she's awesome. I've learned, let's see, probably to be a little bit more flexible in terms of expectations and, just reality. And, she's very, very forgiving and flexible and always trying to, I'm trying to figure out the right words. She's always trying to encourage me to go a little easier on myself.
So
she's the one that's always
stay there real quick, right? Stay there. So
okay.
Are you, because I know you're a coach too, right? And this is what I think is funny. Yeah. Like working with other coaches, I think it's funny because it's just like, I think working with a coach, someone who is a coach, is hard because we have our own way of doing things. Yeah. And so are you that type of coach / athlete to where like you want someone to be hard or rigid? Or is this kind of new where someone's like, hey, it's okay to be flexible. It's okay to have some forgiveness.
I think maybe there's a little bit of both in there. I thought that I was looking for that, zero flexibility, no nonsense, harsh in the beginning, but that also proved to be a little unrealistic. So you can do all those things, but are they going to have longevity is the question.
And that's what I love too, right? I always think, is it sustainable? And I think so many people get into nutrition, and whether it's like going super rigid and being super strict, and then they burn out because they realize it's not sustainable. So it's a breath of fresh air to hear her say like, hey, we can be more flexible in that. My wife is great at that. My wife, she's very flexible through nutrition, and it's very much focused upon like performance and wellness based. And she comes from a background that was very rigid from doing like figure and fitness. and it was such an unhealthy relationship with food. And I think a lot of us get in those positions where we get so restrictive that it's that mindset, I can't eat that. I can't do
Mhm.
that. And so to have a coach like her that is understanding and flexible, that opens up your eyes too, to like, oh, wait, this has to be sustainable for the next 40 years of my life so I can live a long
Yeah.
life.
Right. Yeah. I mean, she's encouraged me to do all kinds of things. I mean, I haven't taken her up on a ton of it, but I've really tried to stay the line. There was a lot of things that were introduced in that 8 weeks that I really grew to appreciate. And so I kept them. And even though I don't think that they're going to be like long-term corrections, they make sense for this year. Like for instance, one of them was like no alcohol. Well, to me, that one just makes sense. It's not something that I need. It's not something I really desire. And it makes sense to be like, okay, it's not going to be part of the plan this year. So that one was easy, but that's just one example.
Do you think too that the more you've gotten into it, you've gotten a little bit more forgiving of yourself? Just in a we're just going to stick with nutrition. We won't go too deep there yet, but in a nutrition sense.
Yes.
Perfect. I love that. She is
Yeah.
she sounds like she's a very amazing person, but also too very understanding. Not like rigid with a hammer, but very understanding.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah,
All right.
she's
So then
just real.
what have you learned from me?
I think one of the biggest takeaways is like leaving time for me and making sure that I'm still doing things that are going to help me grow and fill me. I think they seem so small, but in my life, especially when this coaching came on board, like they were big deals. And I didn't realize they were big deals. So
Do you think too, in being a high performer that you are, and when I say high performer, meaning you have your hands in a lot of things, right? I've learned
yeah.
Athena is not a woman who's like, cool, I'm gonna go work a 9 to 5, and then I'm gonna go home and sit on my couch and watch some TV and repeat. Like that's not you, right? You are a woman
Right.
on a mission who's passionate, and you drive forward in what you do. Is it tough to allow yourself time to allow your cup to be filled up and to slow down?
Yes.
So take that
Yes.
same mentality, because you yourself coach and impact the lives of tons of people. What are you articulating to them when it comes to them taking time to fill their cup up?
Um, I think I think a lot of what I talk to my athletes and stuff about is remembering like the only person that controls time is God, not us. And that everything is on his timing. There's certain things that we control and then certain things that we can't. And then just making peace with tomorrow is going to be a brand new day. You do what you can tomorrow, and that's it. That's all you can do. It's a good reminder for myself too, because we all get in a hurry, like we want it to happen tomorrow. And it's just not going to work like that. Like it's a
It's
long haul.
we're in a microwave society, right? If Athena, if you and I, we could get almost anything we wanted within probably 1 minute or less on our cell phones, right? Like I even think about when the microwave was introduced, and it used to be families having dinner together, and then they introduced the microwave, right? But I love what
Yeah.
you said too, and I don't know if this happens to you, but for me, so when I get overwhelmed, right? And let's say I have just so much on my plate, there'll be often times where I'm praying and I'm talking to God. And I'm just like, hey, Lord, make a way. And he tends to make a way in a way I didn't expect. So what he'll do is
Always.
I'll have a meeting get canceled, or something will come up where I have extra time in the day. And in my
Mhm.
mind, that's him being like, hey, I want you to use this to rest or to be still. And for me, and I don't know if this is you, but like it's fighting in my mind to be like, hey, that's okay to rest. It's okay to be still. You don't have to fill every hour of your day with something. And I'm sure with you, right, you battle that.
Oh, every day. You know, it was funny. I didn't know that this was such an issue for other people too, but it surfaced with the question about rest days.
I saw that.
I had
I saw that.
I had no idea, but I mean, this is exactly what we're talking about in a different way, but it's the same, right? So it started out as something very simple where I had posted that today's a rest day, and somebody said, "Hey, Athena, do you have a hard time taking rest days?" And I was like, "Oh, hell no. No way. I love them." In fact, you know, that first 8 weeks, this is talking about some of that rigid, you know,
Yeah.
like it was only so long that I was going to be able to go 7 days a week. That's not realistic long term. It's just not. Things come up where you literally can't. You're busy or you're traveling, you're on the road, or, you know, there are some days where you just cannot. But moving to this new schedule, Carolyn had me go to this 3-1, so 3 days on, you know, very CrossFit, 3 days on, 1 day off, 3 days on. So the rest days are different every week. There's a second part to that, and I'll circle back on it. But one, I'm getting more rest, and it's what I needed. And I didn't know that I needed it until I started getting it. And I'm like, not only are they good for my brain, where I can just shut down that day, I don't have to think so hard, and I get to sleep in a little bit. But also, when I get back to working out after rest day, I feel like I'm so much more efficient in my workouts. It's just better for me. But it sparked this ongoing conversation most of the day where 90% of the responses from people were, I struggle taking rest days. And they're like, I feel like I'm being lazy. I'm letting myself down. And I'm like, wow, over a rest day? You know, like I had no idea it was such a problem for so many people.
How deep do you want to go there?
I mean, let's go. But there was another side to that.
Okay.
Because I struggled with the same thing when Carolyn suggested going to the 3-1 schedule. And I'm doing the math and I'm like, wait a second. That's going to be 2 rest days a week. And I was like,
Yeah.
well, this can't happen. And I was like, and not only that, she goes, she goes, okay. She goes, this is going to mean that you don't take rest days on just Sundays, because that was always rest day, right? The Sunday has been like the Lord's day since birth. Okay. It was always rest day. God, you know, did all these amazing things and he rested on the 7th day. Technically, the 7th day would be on Saturday, wouldn't it? But I always observed it on Sunday. And Carolyn's like, well, Athena, can't you praise God on the assault bike at the same time? And I was like, you know, like, why did I insist that Sundays were that way, other than maybe it was just programming from birth? I don't know any other reason why it's such a big deal, because logically it wouldn't matter, right? We have a personal relationship with God and we can observe that however we want to if it's on a Tuesday.
No,
So
it's refreshing that you said that, and it's really refreshing that Carolyn challenged that. And you make a very good point. Like I grew up Catholic, and so there's just some institutional religious things that you just do, right? Hey, you do this. I went to Catholic school, right? I dressed in a uniform. I was taught by nuns and priests. And I love when she challenged that, because I think as a believer myself, right? And as I've matured as a believer, I've had to wrestle with some of the institutional religious things that I was taught, you know,
yeah,
and Carolyn makes a great point of like, hey, you know, you can glorify God every single day of the week. And I've even taken it a step further to where I have friends who they recognize the Sabbath, and for them, the Sabbath is spending time with their family, not doing physical labor, maybe fasting from TV, social media, where for me, it is, I want to do something to connect with the Lord. So for me, that is being out in nature. That's going for a hike, right? That's just getting time to myself. And so I tell people, I'm like, there are ways for you to connect, so many more different ways than maybe what we've been growing up being taught, right? Like, hey, you got to do this. This is the only way you can connect. And then to the second point, which we could talk about this forever. So the rest day thing is huge, right? So I know for me, and I'm only going to speak from my own personal experience, that early on I really, really struggled that if I was not active, if I was not progressing and doing things, that I was slothful and lazy. And that by being slothful and lazy, I was being disobedient to what the Lord was calling me to do. And in my mind, I thought if I was making progress, that somehow my worth and value will be more. So, oh man, if I coach Athena and Athena does so well, that I'm a better person. Oh, if I go and do really good at business and do really good at my full-time job, and if I do all these things for people, that I'm going to be a better person. And what I've learned from all of that is that I was looking for people's acceptance the entire time. That if people accepted me for all the things that I did, then I would be good enough. And so what I learned over time is that as humans, we seek the affirmation from others. It's a part of our human nature. But if we continue to live for people's acceptance, we'll die from their rejection. And so you make the beautiful point, even in terms of working out. Hey, when I take these rest days, my body feels so much better. I go into the gym, my mind is just better focused. I've got more energy.
Yeah.
I am a firm believer, and I'm sure you line up with some of this, that the enemy doesn't want us to rest, because if the enemy can keep us distracted, then he can keep us holding back on moving forward. Because when we're rested, right? When a believer is rested, they can do powerful things for the Lord. And so I've really had to battle in my mind of being like, when I rest, when I fill my cup up, when I'm recharged, I'm better for the people around me. If I go too much, if I do too much, I'm stressed out. I'm not a great husband, and I'm not responding in the best way.
True.
That was a lot I just unloaded right there.
No, I love it. No, it's true. It's really true. I struggled with that, and I didn't like it at first, but then I was like, wow, this is like, talk about being institutionalized. Like,
Yeah.
this could be any day of the week. Like, holy cow. And then, yeah, I think maybe that rest day didn't mean, it meant no work for me. Didn't mean I couldn't work out. It meant no work. So,
Do you think too, right? Because you and we're closer in age. Do you feel like maybe the last couple of years in this like hustle, grind, go mentality, that we see more and more people like burning out because of that? Like we have this almost some fake, some real on social media presents this life that everyone's doing everything and everything is going great. And so I've got to keep up with these people. And all we're creating is all these individuals who are just burning themselves out just to look like they're active.
here's what I'll say about that. I don't think I've ever believed half the bullshit I see.
God, that's beautiful. I mean, because the
When I
reality is, right,
see, like,
most of us are posting up highlight reels.
I mean, yes, highlight reels, but I I think maybe just intuitively, and it's taken a long time for me to get to a point where I believed it. But you always think that everybody's moving at lightning speed and you're sitting still. Everybody else has it together and you don't. Everybody else is making all this amazing progress and you're not. Everything looks great. In fact, when I see things that look perfect, the more I'm convinced they're not.
So then I was messing around on Instagram last week, and there was this filter, Athena, that made my skin have no wrinkles. And I said, oh, man, look at that. And then I immediately thought to myself, like, is that the world we live in, where we're trying to put filters on everything so they look better than they really are?
I mean, in that respect, yes. I mean, I love this little filter that it does to me. I don't care. But who cares? But like the filter on the life stuff, to me, I mean, maybe we could use the example of the filter, sure. But where do I go with this? Here's what I've learned about people since January. There's always another side to the story. There's always all the stuff that doesn't appear online or in a post or in a fucking video. You know what I mean? Like, no, we're all the same. We're all struggling. We all have insecurities. We all are trying to get somewhere. Like, nobody has it together. Because if they had it together, they wouldn't need to post that they have it together.
Thank you for saying that and just being real. It's refreshing to hear another person say, we all have insecurities. We all don't have it together. Right. Like, no, like I joke with people who'll be like, oh man, you look like you're crushing life. And I always go, life is crushing me. You just think I'm doing well, but I struggle like everyone else.
I know.
And that's one thing I've always respected about your social media, even before you and I started working together. You were always a very open and transparent person. And I don't know if that's something that you've learned in time, but I think that's why a lot of people are drawn to you, because you can 100% be yourself and you don't have to like sugarcoat it. It's Athena, and here's how I am. It's not, here's Athena, with some sprinkles on here just to make you feel better.
Sometimes, I mean, sometimes people could perceive it that way. Like I'm trying to think of a good example. So people complain a lot that I answer people too nicely, and they're like, that's a front. And I've always combated that by saying, it's not a front, it's a practice. It's because I know that if I respond in a negative way, it's going to create more negativity. But if I try to use humor and I try to diffuse it, it actually will make me feel good all day long because I responded in that way. It's not because it's a front. Does it mean that, and I've tried to correct people too, like, does it mean that my first response wasn't like, screw you in my living room? Of course it was. And I try to be very clear about that. Just because that's the stuff that I post doesn't mean that's what I thought. But like good. This is something that I am dedicated to working on, that I'm not going to put that back out. It's a practice. It's not a front.
And being able, you and I have chatted about this, right? Being able to control your emotions so you don't respond on what everyone posts or says, right? Mm-hmm. Essentially, I control the way I respond 100% of the time. Yeah. When I respond out of emotion, anger, whatever that may be, like that is me giving power to that other person. And so when we start to realize that, like, hey, you have the power to respond or not to respond. And what I've learned sometimes is the best response is nothing. Like a friend of mine said today, they said the word no and this can wait are beautiful responses. And I'm like, oh, you don't think about that, but it's like, hey, you know what? That's right. And I think about you. Yeah, I think about you because you are so interactive on social media and you do care and you do reach out to people. And so I'm sure you get messages sometimes where you're like, God, I want to respond in such a way, right? And then I'm sure you take some time and like, hey, I'll get back to that.
99% of the time, yeah, I'll wait. I'll wait until I can respond with a sense of humor. Well, it's not always bad either. It's not like every single thing that people write me is not always bad either. Sometimes it's quite funny. But I was trying to think of another good example. Somebody wrote, and it really got to me too. Not got to me in a bad way, but it really made me think about, like, how do I portray myself online? One of the things that came across is, this person was struggling to like get started, and they're like, Athena, you're over here crushing it. You're hitting your deadlines. You're hitting your goals. Look at you go. And I'm like, the problem with social media, and I tried to correct it right away, is that it doesn't show the look on my face when the alarm goes off at 4:45. It doesn't show the fuck all the way to the bedroom door. It doesn't show the going out to the garage. You know what I mean? It doesn't show all these things. It doesn't show all these things that I have to talk myself through every single day. But I was very quick to like correct that because I'm like, don't forget that. Like, I can't show all that, but that's what's happening, just so that you all know. That's what's happening. Every single day, I have to talk myself through this shit every day.
See, what comes to mind though is like how many people you can connect with if you did a day in the life, a transparent day in the life. And when your alarm goes off, fuck this, hit snooze. I don't want to do this. Like, and you
Right?
just wake up. Like, I joke with people, like, I don't wake up every day amped up to take on life, right? Sometimes I am just like, you know what? I have to get up because I have responsibilities. But I love the fact that, like, the authenticity in that. Hey, you may see this, but here's the reality of what it looks like.
Right.
And getting people to understand that, like, also, too, you've been doing this long enough to where discipline plays a huge part of your life. You're not just rolling off of the momentum highs. Like, you've gotten to the point where you're disciplined enough to know, like, hey, I'm doing this because I said I was going to do it, which is such a rare characteristic today.
Right. Some of it's just become like habit.
Yeah.
To do things because like I don't have to think about it anymore. It's just time to go do it. There's some things, like being around cake is not a habit. I still get weak around cake. But other than that, but yeah, like you start doing it for a long time. I mean, it just becomes. But I feel like I have to remind people that this is normal. 6 out of 7 days a week, I'm hitting the snooze button. I'm grumbling all the way to the bedroom door. I'm cussing as I'm putting my shoes on. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I'm looking outside. I'm like, please tell me it's raining so that I don't have to do the sled. No, it's not raining. You know what I mean? Like, this is what happens. This is real.
I like that though, because you and I know that there's so many like people on social media who's like, get up at 3 a.m., take a cold plunge, go for a 2-mile run, do quiet time, sit in the sauna. And I'm like, you're not doing that like every day with this jacked up mind. Like, I can't wait. Like,
No,
you're
that's
probably
what
like,
I'm talking about,
yeah,
Gordon. This is what I'm talking about.
yeah.
Like, I literally look at these accounts that show those videos. I'm like, you're so full of shit. You are full of shit. Fine, you can like talk all this like courage and wisdom and and play the fancy music behind it. But I guarantee you, the minute that you get in that, you edited out the part where you're like, fuck, this is cold. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't hear that part where you're like, I can't believe I do this. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
come on.
100%. I do want to backtrack to something you said early on because I've run into this at my own affiliate. And like I told you, you're definitely an expert in the space. So you made a comment about like you were maybe a little too cautious when it came to some of your workouts, and having Pete there and having your other coaches there and having Miranda there to be like, hey, how about this? That mentality, was it cautious, conservative, and timid because of like the fear of moving or getting hurt? Or where was some of that coming from?
I think 99% of mine comes from, I think it was some of that programming that happened when I left the hospital. The doctors were basically like, you know that you're on borrowed time with these legs and to treat them as nice and proper as you can. And it's kind of like, that's one of the reasons that I brought Amy on one of these coaches check-ins, because the reality is that they don't know. They don't know what extra pressure or extra box jumps is going to do to the longevity of an artificial joint. We don't have the data. We don't know. So they send you home with basically like, look, best case scenario, you've got 20 years, make the most of it. No running, no jumping, no all of these things. And when you're going through physical therapy, that's all you hear. So for like 12 weeks, it was programmed. And so I heal, I recover, right? I'm back out in the box and I'm trying to do all these movements. And that's the stuff that's replaying in my head because we don't know. I'm like, well, shit, do I do Do I just do one? Do I just say, okay, I'm going to go for it and live the very best life I can now, knowing that I could be cutting 8 years off? It's hard. And so I tend to, because of that, to overscale myself, not on purpose. It's on accident because I'm constantly conflicted with, do I want it to last? Do I follow the advice? Or do I just say, I'm going to live my very best life right now, no matter what they say? It's a hard conflict.
How, as a coach, right? How do you coach someone who may be in that mindset?
The same mindset as me. Well, this is where it gets really challenging. And this is why. Because the coach I am for people that have the same condition as me is not how I am with myself. You know, like what I recommend to one of my students who does have two new knees, would I ever recommend her doing box jumps? No. No. Because I don't know what, you know, and I think one of the most popular comeback is I won't mention names, but hey, this person has a fake joint in their hip, and look at all the amazing things that they can do, and you know, they're defying the odds. No, the doctors never said that that person wasn't going to be able to do those things. What they said was that they should not do those things. Never said they couldn't. It's kind of like, you have to look at some of these joints, at least, I mean, I think it would be silly not to. You have to look at these joints as like brand new tires on a bike. Okay. Now, you just went and you got the brand new trail tires, right? Heavy duty, durable trail tires on the new trek bike. Okay. Now, there's certain things, like that bike can do anything now, but there's certain things that we're going to be like, well, that was weird. Did you just disappear for a minute? If you take the bike off the trail and you run it on the road in 95-degree weather, it's probably going to wear the tread down fast. You know what I mean?
I often wonder too, right? I see athletes in my own gym who have some mental barriers. And there's, you and I both know, right? There's a difference between mental barriers and physical barriers. Like someone who just got an L5S1 fusion of their spine, there's going to be physical barriers. But those who do not have any physical limitations as far as surgeries, joints, I've noticed there's a lot of mental barriers. And one thing I try to articulate, and I want to hear how you handle this with your athletes, is I'll try to tell them, like, hey, be confident in your body and your abilities, because I'll see that very conservative mindset to what you said earlier. They're scaling back so much of like, well, I don't want to hurt myself, and trying to get them to understand, like, hey, what we're doing is safe movement. And you have a coach available here to make sure you're doing safe movement, but also to, hey, trust that your body can do this. You've been stepping to a 12-inch box for 10 weeks now. Hey, I think we can go to a 14-inch box. So how do you work through some of those mental barriers with your athletes who may not have any surgical physical limitations?
I think that you just said it. In fact, you said both versions of it. So the version that I hear the most is trust your body. I would never tell an athlete that, because they don't. That's the problem. So the tiny little switch is trust that your body can do it.
Ooh, that's good.
And that helps build it's just that little tiny switch. They don't trust their body. That's the problem. What you're telling them is trust that it can.
Do you think in your experience that overcoming the mental barriers are harder than the physical?
1,000%.
Yep.
1,000.
I would 100% agree on that. Going back to what we were talking about, filling our cup up, right? Now that you're doing this 3 on 1 off, so essentially you're going Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, off Saturday.
Yeah. So every week it just gets pushed out slightly. So like this week, Wednesday is an off day, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday will be on, and then I'll get Sunday as a rest day this week.
So then tell me what Athena is intentionally doing for herself on her off days.
I started doing all kinds of little things. Like I go to the movies, I read a lot, I do a lot of studying for the L3.
Hell yeah.
It's something that I want, so it's important to me. So it does fill my cup in that way. I spend time like calling friends, talking to friends, especially if they're like long distance, long distance.
And since you've started doing that, what have you noticed in your heart and mind?
It just feels better. Very low stress.
Have you had to battle any of those lies from the enemy saying, oh, you're being lazy, you need to do more, think of all the stuff you can get done?
No.
God, how awesome is that? How awesome is that you're at that place?
No. I think that's why I was shocked, is because it wasn't that long ago that I was in that place that all those people that were responding that day are there. And I'm like, wow. I think if you just did it for a couple weeks and record like how your body feels, how your brain feels, how your mind feels, it's night and day when you just get a little extra rest, and that's all it took.
That's even like a good 30-day challenge. Hey, over the next 30 days, so let's say you take 2 rest days, right?
Right.
You're going to take 8 days out of the next 30 where you're going to intentionally do something for yourself, at least in a 2 or 3 hour span. And it would be interesting to see how many people fought that the first couple days, right?
Oh, they're going to.
Try to fill it with work, try to fill it with things just to stay busy, right? Because if we're busy, we're doing stuff, and that's good, right? But I love that mindset because I have no doubt that like you're better for your people because you're taking that time.
Yes.
And now the goal is, right, getting that to your athletes, just like I got to get it to my athletes. Like as we're sitting here, I'm thinking about some of my athletes who are just like, oh, hey, for my rest day, I'm going to go run 6 miles. And I'm like, but why?
Oh, well, they'll do it under the guise of active recovery.
Yes. Yeah. Hey, I'm going to do an active recovery day. And then on their other active recovery day, I'm going to do an hour of like heated yoga. And my challenge is always like, stop trying to earn your rest day, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is okay to have a rest day. And you said this.
Said. I think that's the entire switch.
Yes.
Like, I don't have to justify a rest day anymore. I'm going to take it. I'm going to love it. I'm going to enjoy it. I've earned it. And I'll take as many of them as I want.
Well, even back in like, before CrossFit, I did bodybuilding and I was very structured and disciplined in my nutrition. And like, this is how unhealthy I was. I remember like, I think me and my brother on Sundays would do a cheat day, not a meal, a day. I'm talking like breakfast is Burger King or McDonald's. You're going out at lunch. You're like stuffing yourself. And like in the moment, all you kept telling yourself was like, well, I earned this because the last 6 days I was disciplined. I trained all this much. And then like fast forward a couple of years, I'm like, think of all the damage I was doing to my body on that day when I just like completely gorged myself. But like we have that mentality, oh, I have to earn this food.
It's true.
Yeah.
One of the accounts that I follow religiously is Tasia's account, and she has taught me a lot through her account about, like things we don't have to, like, if you want to have like a breakfast and it's got a sandwich and hash browns, like you don't have to explain it. You don't have to say, you don't have to justify it. It's like, it's okay. If you want to have a day where you enjoy this stuff, like it's okay. Good Lord.
That's it though, right there. I think, God, you're on it right now. Because like we look at social media and people like, oh, just needed a treat. You don't need to explain yourself to anyone. Like early on when I would go out to eat and I would be in a work function, I would be like, hey, I'm going to get a steak. I like steak. I want to get a salad. Give me some vegetables. And people would look at me and I'd always have to explain myself. And I remember like feeling guilty because I was choosing to make these decisions based upon the priorities of my life. And I remember one night driving home, Annie was like, why do you always explain yourself to people? And it's always like this thing where back then, like, well, if I explain it to them, then they'd understand and they'd accept me. When here's the reality, you can make choices based upon what you want with zero explanation to anyone.
I'm trying to figure that. Okay, so okay, first example. Dear old friend of mine. So this person, they like to say, like no sugar. My children have no sugar. My children eat perfect every day. We don't allow sugar in the house and all these things, right? And this one particular day, I stumble across, their table basically, and all the kids are eating donuts and cereal like they've eaten donuts and cereal their whole life. And every part of me, like, this is the bullshit that I'm talking about. Like, why can't you just say, hey, you know what? Every now and then I let my kids have sugar in a donut. And it's okay.
Because that would kill their entire Instagram influencer account.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
that's how, like, and here's the thing. What's even more absurd is that all of these followers believe this horse shit. Ooh. Oh no, they're perfect. They never let their kids have any sugar. Like, never happens. I'm traveling, I'm visiting in March. And I open up a pantry and a refrigerator. I have pictures of that pantry and refrigerator. And the secrets that pantry and refrigerator would share the world, like, people would be mind blown. What do you mean? This person eats chocolate covered eggs? You know what I mean? In their refrigerator, there's frozen pizza and Hot Pockets. How would this person explain the pizza and Hot Pockets? No. For some reason, we have to maintain this image that, oh no, I only eat fruit and meat for the next 2 years. That's bullshit. It's all bullshit. This is like what I'm talking about. I don't believe any of it because all of it is just, it's whatever people will allow you to see from their account.
Well, and now we've gotten into like the monetization of accounts, right? So accounts reach a certain number, and so they're portraying this. And it goes back to what we said earlier. People are portraying a lifestyle because they want to appear like we have it all together, right? And the reality is we're going to connect more with people when we start to go deeper below that surface crap. And that's how deep-rooted relationships and friendships are.
You just said, hey, this is what I allow hey, I'm a human. Guess what? I'm human. That people would find that 10 times more relatable.
Would their following be as big though, right?
I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't know if it would be as big or bigger or less. I don't know. Maybe people want to believe that people are flawless. When in reality, all of our realities are like the same. We're all struggling with the same things, you know?
What if we started just a campaign of like real social media where you just post the realest shit from your day? Like, I posted a picture this morning at 4:48 that said send help because I was exhausted. But I didn't put that. It just said send help. What if I actually put, hey, I'm exhausted. I've worked too much. This is my life.
Because then you would have to admit to your public or whatever that your schedule, because you don't want it to appear that it's too much. You don't want to have to say, I'm carrying too much. I thought I could handle it all, but I can't. Because that's the hardest part, is admitting, like, I did this to myself. I said yes to too many things.
That's
and
gold.
You don't want to have to share that with people, Gordon.
Yep. Because then when you share that with people, like for me, right, it creates a level of like, I can't do it.
They're going to look at you and think of you as weak.
Oh,
you can't do it. You're not capable.
Yep. You are preaching now. And that's so many of us, right? Well, I don't want to appear weak or that I'm incapable. Because then if you view me as incapable, weak, you may not rely on me. When the reality is, folks, all of us are struggling with something like you said.
Okay.
Insecurity, incapability, anxiety, stress. And the more,
Time management, like
yeah,
our children,
yeah, the more we
like
can get on the same page of being like, hey, this is where I'm at. I've got some really cool friends who are just like, hey, all I have to offer is this today. And I'm like, I love that. Awesome. I can work with that.
there you go.
All right. So from this conversation, we're going to start a new social media campaign called the Realness Campaign. Okay. Sounds good.
What can you, okay, well, let's challenge ourselves today. Like,
let's go.
What can we share that was like the real today?
Oh, man. You want me to go first? You want to go first?
Yeah, you go first. I got to think of mine.
All right. So over the weekend, I shared with Athena this before I jumped on. So there was a competition down here in South Carolina. It was a 3-day competition. I had 10 athletes along with my good buddy who competed. And so from Friday to Sunday, we spent 20 hours at this competition. And then when I came home at night, I programmed. And then I programmed Sunday morning at like 7 a.m. And then this morning, I had to get up at 4 and go coach for 3 hours at my affiliate. And when I walked into my affiliate this morning, the people that we've contracted to clean decided not to show up. And so I was just burnt out and just like over it all. And rather than express that and be like, yo, I'm not in a good mental space. I haven't had sleep. I'm burnt out. I just like put on this fake face and smiled all through my day. And like I was just driving home and a part was like, this is just bullshit. Because I'm just like, sometimes I'll refer to myself as a clown. Where like a clown just puts on makeup and does what people wants him to do. Like, hey, look at me. And so I was just driving home and I was just like, I'm a fucking clown today. I'm a fucking clown. And you said this earlier. Like, if I would have just said no to a couple of things today, I would have had time to rest and to catch up. And I didn't. And I didn't because what you articulated beautifully earlier. I didn't want to appear weak. I didn't want to appear that I couldn't do it. And so now the consequences of that in my current life is my days have gotten backed up into each other. So now I'll be working extra the next couple of days just to catch up because I was too insecure to say no. That was a great question, Athena.
Okay. That was a great answer. Let's see, what was mine? Here's the real. I decided I did not want to go to the CrossFit Games. Don't want to go. Like, I don't want to have to play the game this year. I don't want to have to play the game and act like, oh, I'm so excited. Because I'm not. It's not because I don't enjoy it. It's just because during that week, I want to go lay on a beach. You're on mute.
Oh, I know, but that was just amazing. Like,
I
that
want to go lay on
sounds
the beach.
amazing. Yes.
I don't want to have to I don't want to have to explain to anybody or get permission like, oh, why aren't you going to the game? Because I don't want to go. I don't want to go this year. I want to go lay on a beach, and I don't want to have the games are stressful for me. They're extremely stressful. And as grateful and appreciative as I am, they're very high, intense, people-y things. You know what I mean? And it takes every bit of Athena has to be present every second that she's there. And I'm like, I don't want to do it this year.
It's an introvert's nightmare. I remember the first year I went to the games and you're right. There's so many cool things to do and there's so much action, but it is like so overstimulating. And so I love the fact that you're choosing to go to the beach. Now, have we determined what beach we're going to?
I'm going to go to California.
Oh, shoot. Okay, let's go.
I'm going to go out to Santa Barbara.
Nice.
And I'm going to go on the beach and spend time with my, call them my little nieces and nephews. I'm going to spend time with my babies, and I'm going to spend some time in the sun, and I'm going to just relax that week because that's what I want to do.
I love that. And then, so if I'm correct, you're giving away your ticket to the games by having people send in a video, correct?
Yes.
So where did that idea come from?
I mean, it's not uncommon to run like little contests and stuff. And I mean, I used to do send one or two people to the L1 every year. That's something that we've done from the beginning. So it was just like, just because I want to go lay on a beach that week doesn't mean that I can't appreciate like the excitement and a lot of the feedback that I heard that it just sold out too fast and people that really want to be there can't be there. And yeah, I mean, I guess I could sell the ticket, but to me, it would be way more fun to see somebody that can make it, that really wants to go, or CrossFit really changed their life. Because the games is like, especially that first time, it's unforgettable.
It is. Yes.
Like you can't, like, it's something that you can't, like, you have to be in the Coliseum. You have to feel that, like, it's irreplaceable. You can't, you know what I mean? I think once you've been a couple times, it starts wearing off a little bit. And you're like, but for somebody, especially if it's like their first time, like, man, that rumble, boom, 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 the music, you know what I mean? You have to go and be a part of that.
So to win these tickets, they've got to send you a video explaining what?
Just to tell their like story. Like, I know a lot of people that really get inspired by going to the games, and that's kind of their avenue into CrossFit. Sometimes it's like watching like the behind the scenes, or they saw like the CrossFit videos. Maybe that was how they found CrossFit, was getting inspired through that. So it's just like to be able to tell the story. But this was not about like the ticket. This was about like being okay to like say no and not feel like I don't have to explain myself.
I love that.
I just don't want to do it.
I love it too, right? Because it just seems like your confidence in your decision making is increasing and you're getting more comfortable saying no, which totally can be a good thing, right? No, excuse me. No doesn't have to be a detrimental word. No can be a freedom word. And so I love that you're getting more comfortable and confident in saying no.
I would say that no has become more of like a freedom thing. I think a lot of the things that really held me back before was always feeling obligated. Part of that was like my own prison, where I always felt like, if somebody asked me to do something like, oh, if I say no, it's going to look this way, or it's going to look this way, or, oh, I don't want them to think badly of me if I don't show up, and I'll, like enough.
No, that's Athena. There's freedom in that. There's so much freedom in that. And I know the people watching this, there's so many people who are going to hear that, because I was just thinking in my head of like that. When you said the word obligated, I was like, oh my God, that's the right word. Of like how many things we obligate ourselves to because we're so fearful of the response if we say no.
Correct. It's not like somebody's putting the condition on you. It's that dumb conditional shit that we put like on ourselves. You know what I mean? Like, okay, so here's a good example. And I think it took me working through this to be able to do it for the games. Because initially when I got my ticket, I was like, oh, it's going to be Dallas. It's going to be fun. But I'll be honest with you. Like, I can't think of anywhere I'd rather, like, I spent 15 years in Texas. And I can tell you from 15 years worth of experience, like, I don't want to be in Dallas in August. I just don't. I'm going to die. I didn't like it when I was there. Like, to me, that's not a fun time. It's awful. It's upwards of like 110 degrees. It's not fun even walking from building to building. It's a nightmare. And I'm like, you know what? That doesn't sound fun to me. But, oh shit, where was I going with that? There was a reason why I told you that, Gordon.
Games ticket, sweating your butt off. You've been in Dallas for 15 years. Saying no, there's freedom in that.
Here's the reason I told you. Oh, okay. So in February, all of CrossFit was ascending on Austin, and everybody was going to the health summit. And everybody was reaching out saying, Athena, like, aren't you going? Aren't you going? Aren't you going? And I'm like, it was the first time where, like, this is what happens every time. Like, I give in and I say yes, not really necessarily because I want to be there, but it's everybody expecting you to be there, right? Or why aren't you there? You should be there. And then to me, like, sometimes I feel like I watch the charade every time there's an event. You have all the same people taking all the same photographs. And I'm like, it's not going to be me this time. It's not going to be me this time because, like, I don't have to feel that I'm going to miss out on something I have attended 8 times before. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to miss anything other than a photo op. You know what I mean? Is that what's important to me? Or do I want to, like, work on the seminar that we're going to be delivering in 2 weeks? You know what I mean? Like, that was the hardest thing that I had to work through in February, was this feeling of like, I'm going to miss something. Well, no, I'm not really missing anything.
I love that. And a pastor one time told me, your best yes can be a no.
Yeah.
And there's so much freedom in that. And then also too, it's like, you make a really good point of, like, feeling like you have to show up because it's an event. And you're like, wait a minute. Like, how many times do we actually ask ourselves, wait a minute, do I want to go?
Right.
Like, what's the reason am I going? Am I going because I don't want FOMO, because my friends are going to have pictures on social media? Or am I actually going, like, to gain some experience from this? And how can this better me as a human?
Yes. That's
Now,
exactly what it was for me.
I will say, though, because I'm going to Fort Worth because I have to work, whoever does win your ticket needs to go to coffee with me. So that's just a prerequisite of whoever wins your ticket, they have to get coffee in Fort Worth with me.
I mean, look, it's going to be fun for somebody. I just
Yes.
I want to go to the beach.
I like that, though, too. I just like, there's so many nuggets that we've talked about. And one of that right there, just talking about saying no. And I've even seen in my own life, I'm sure you've seen this, when you start to put in boundaries and tell people no, not everyone's going to like that. Like, and I've had friends before who'll be like, oh, hey, come over here and do this. I'm like, hey, I'm going to finish this first. No, I want you over here. I'm like, I'm going to finish this first. And they'd get mad at me. And I'm like, hey, look, like, you're getting mad because I'm not doing what you want. This is a two-way friendship. This is not me as a dog doing what you want me to do. And so I learned early on, like, hey, putting in boundaries, not everyone's going to agree with that. And the people who are going to be in my circle, just like you, and who are going to love you and support you in all facets of life, regardless of the Athena that you are the ones who are going to respect your boundaries.
Yeah, you know what? For me, it wasn't like, it was less about a boundaries issue. You're totally right, by the way. It was less about boundaries for me as it is, I have to be able to get past this FOMO thing because I have it just as bad as everybody else. Always feeling like, oh gosh, like, what am I going to miss out on? Or it's expected, or, I'm not going to have the pictures for my social media too. This is so stupid. I'm not doing this to myself anymore.
Let's just put this out there. Pictures on a beach are going to be the coolest pictures you'll have on social media. And then add in your nieces. Come on.
My little babies.
How old are they?
It's Mariah and Tyson's kids.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So the twins are going to be 5 in September. And the littlest one is like 13 months.
What a fun age. The 5s. Mm-hmm. That's a full energy age.
They're the sweetest. Oh.
You want to answer?
Gordon, how do you answer this one?
I think going to say.
You should answer this one.
All right, man. All right. So Garrett asked us, how do you figure out what your boundaries are? Man, that's great, Garrett. So first off, you need to do some introspection. You need to take some time to look inside of yourself and understand some of the feelings you have of what feels good and what doesn't feel good, right? So for me in particular, I learned that, like, I don't like being guilt tripped into things. So Athena made a really good point of, like, oh, you got to be here. You got to be at this event. And so I used to go to appease other people. And then I remember being at the event, being like, I could be with my wife right now, relaxing, spending time
Yeah.
together, you know? And so then I started to realize, like, okay, some boundaries for me, Garrett, are time. I don't have much free time in my life. So I've chosen to protect a lot of the free time I have. So when I recognize that, then the boundary I put in was I'm going to say no to more things unless it's benefiting my marriage in particular. And so let's say, Garrett, you're not married. Then you're going to put boundaries in that are going to benefit your mental well-being, meaning hopefully you're not saying yes to, hopefully you're not saying yes to things that give you like high anxiety and things that are putting you in situations that you don't want to be a part of.
You know what, Gordon? I always take a shortcut on mine. You know how I find my boundaries really quick? If it triggers like some kind of like response, like if I get mad or irritated, boom, you just hit a boundary. You know what I mean?
Yep. And
like,
that's good too. Not just mad because you're tired, but like, no, this keeps coming up. This is a thing. Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like if something irritates you, like to me, that's always a flag. Like there's like, you just hit like one of those goalposts. Like, so, and that's the same thing I kind of experienced this time. I was thinking about the games, right? To me, I thought it was the weather. I think it is. I can't stand Texas heat in August, honestly. But it wasn't that. It was more like, you know what? Like, I reserve all this time to go do all these functions. And a couple weeks ago, Gordon, you said, when was the last time you took a vacation? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
What did I say?
Years ago.
It was 2009.
Years ago.
2009 was the last time I took a vacation. And I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, why?
Yeah. And you really think about that too, right? Some of that mentality of like, I remember, gosh, this was years ago. We used to take one vacation a year. It was 1 week. And Annie was just like, we work so hard for 51 weeks just to take 5 days off. Do you think that makes sense? And in my mind, like we've talked about this whole call, like institutionalized. Well, I worked in corporate America and they're like, yeah, everyone takes a 1 week vacation. And that's just what you do. And I remember being like, I don't want to do that. And so then when I started working for myself, I was just like, I'm going to go on more vacations. And actually I had a really good mentor who he was like, him and his family go on smaller vacations every 3 to 4 months. And he really used it as a way for him to kind of refresh himself to be better for his people. But what he said was, he goes, everyone thinks I take vacations because I don't have anything to do. He's like, it's actually the opposite. I have a ton to do, but that vacation helps me recenter myself on what's most important. And I was like, what a beautiful mindset to have, where most of us in the world are like, all right, well, I'm going to go work for 51 weeks, take these 5 days off, be stressed out because I'm behind at work.
For me, like something that I've had to work on this year too, but I think it's been very freeing is, CrossFit it's the thing that fills my cup. It does. But I also don't want CrossFit to become institutionalized for me too.
Good word.
I don't want the things that we do to become like, I don't want something like the games to be something that I start dreading because I feel like I have to go.
Yeah. Because that's when you're losing that passion.
That's what I mean. So it's like, no, like it's okay to go on a vacation this year, and we're doing it.
And it's okay to get a suntan. And
we'll see you guys next year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and we'll just sweat together. Yes, it'll be fine. So, yeah. No, that's good. And I just think of how many people are just like literally watching this, being like, they need to go on vacation, but maybe they feel guilty. Did you have to fight some of that, or did you know? Nope, I'm going. It don't matter.
I think it took a little bit, like, but then I worked through the health summit just fine. And I'm like, no, you're going to be just fine with the games too. You know what? If you want to go to an event, go to Wadapalooza in January, because you've never been to Wadapalooza. That would be a fun thing to go and grow and experience from. Okay, we're going to trade the games for Wadapalooza in January. There we go.
Is mom coming to California?
No.
Can you bring her to Miami? I just need to have your mom and you documented on some traveling experience between her yellow Crocs and everything else. You guys just need to have some sort of like reality show.
She's cute.
Your mom's awesome, man. Your mom
She's
she's adorable.
So, Gordon, let me ask you something. Like, how have you been?
So I just came. So you know this. I just came out of 3 weeks. So through the last 4 weeks, I was working and just traveling a ton. And so the upside is like I knew that was coming. And so I kind of put some boundaries and barriers in place with some things in my life that have helped. Probably the drawback was, and you know this, my businesses and affiliate, they don't stop. So no matter how much I try to put in some boundaries, you still got to deal with some shit. And I've recognized this though differently now. Like I told you, we did this really great affiliate summit. It was awesome. It was packed out. The impact was amazing. And I remember like that night going back to the hotel, praying with my wife, just about like, man, Lord, thank you so much for everything you did. And the next morning I woke up at 3:00 to catch a flight. And I had a text message on my phone just dealing with some stuff with my affiliate. And beforehand, that used to like put me over the edge. But I was just kind of like, this makes sense. God just got the glory for everything we did. So the enemy's going to do everything he can. And so just like this past weekend, right? The athletes did incredible. Incredible. Most of them podiumed. Most of them finished top 5. And I'm just like, man, God got a lot of glory this weekend. And so then this morning when I wake up, stuff happened to the affiliate. Cleaner didn't come. Some equipment broke. Now I just kind of laugh and I'm like, all right, Lord, I see what the enemy's trying to do. So rather than letting the stress and anxiety get to me, I'm just trying to reframe it in my mind of like, the more I start climbing towards the Lord, the more that those arrows are going to come. And just being able to have good people in my corner like you, where, man, I jumped on some, you and I sent a bunch of audio messages back where I was like, hey,
Are you
look.
still there, Gordon?
Yeah. Oh, I'm still here. Okay.
There we go.
No, like you and I sent some really good audio messages back where I just kind of told you, and I loved how understanding you were. I was like, hey, I'm traveling this many days coming up. I'm underwater right now. And I loved your response. You were like, hey, I totally understand. Just let me know how I can support you. And like I've told you this before, that's rare because not everyone is like that. Because I think in life, sometimes we have people that want something for us, not from us. And I'm just trying to surround myself to Garrett's great point about boundaries. I'm trying to surround myself with people who want something for me, not just from me.
I agree with that. And I hope that you didn't take like I'm hoping that you took all of this the right way too. Like I didn't send you as many messages, not because I didn't want to talk to you. It was just like I was trying to read the room.
Well, you respected what I was going through. That's why I loved it, because you knew like, hey, he's traveling a ton. And so like even you going out of your way, it was on, gosh, I got back from Florida last Sunday. I think it was that Monday. You're like, hey, tell me how the summit was. Like, I love that you went out of your way just to ask me about that, because to me, it shows me that what we're doing is not this one-way street. It's a reciprocated relationship of one person pouring into the other and vice versa.
Okay. Because I got a little nervous. I was like, well, I'm not trying to avoid him or anything. And I don't want him to think that I don't want to lean on him and that's not what this is for. It's just like, I didn't know what all the traveling meant. Like at first, like I would make when you said like it's going to be like forever a joke, because when you said Nashville, I did not know what the hell that meant. And the reason
Knoxville.
that I didn't know that meant is because I don't follow the game schedule at all. Like somebody could have said like, oh, Athena, are you going to Nashville or wherever they had like semifinals West or whatever? And I was like, what's that? You know what I mean? Like it would have been.
I went Knoxville, and then I was home for a week, and then I went Florida, and then
that long?
I don't think it was that long. I was home for a week, and then I went right into this 3-day competition, and that pretty much just ended my 3-week span. And so now don't have to leave to go anywhere until the game. So like I have 5 weeks, and I literally just told Annie, I was like, all I want to do Saturday is work out with you, go get coffee, and just sit there. Like two old couples just sitting there.
Mhm.
Yeah, but no, it was really cool. Just the level of respect you had, not only for space, but just like I'm always appreciative of people who ask me how I'm doing or how things went. And when they say it from a place of like care, like even you're like, yo, tell me how you're doing, not just like this very one-off, like, hey, how you doing? Great. Anyways, like you genuinely care. And to me, that is such a rare characteristic in this world.
Thank you.
You are welcome.
I try.
You do. And that's why I appreciate you.
Well, also respecting your time.
I do need a shower. I have not showered since I worked
I
out.
was like, I know we're over, but until Annie, I'm always grateful that I get to borrow you. Um, um, the one last thing that I wanted to cover before you left was the question that you asked me. You said we'll pick it up on the call, and
The
we
one
did
on
it.
the one on legacy.
Yeah. I was super, super, super fascinated where that would have come from because I don't think I've thought about it and I don't think that my opinion on it is going to change. I
So
think that okay, so everybody, Gordon asked me like, what kind of legacy do I want to leave behind? And the question is like, when you're gone and you get called to heaven and that's your next mission, like what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind? I struggled with this question. I'm curious where it came from because I genuinely believe like when we get so caught up in like wondering what kind of legacy that we're going to leave behind, we are actually struggling with, does my life mean something? I want my life to mean something. And I've never struggled with that at all. Like I know my life means something. I don't question that at all. If I were to die tomorrow, I would have been like, I'm all right.
which that's rare, right? Like I think that's rare. So where that came from, and just in total transparency. So Father's Day was 3 weeks ago. So my father passed away unexpectedly back in 2007. Literally just out of nowhere, young man passed away. And so like I have worked for years through a lot of that. And one thing that my brother and I kind of always talk about was like, what legacy did this man leave behind? And such a hard worker and a provider, not there physically, mentally, or emotionally. And so him and I have really spent a large majority of our life investing into other people and trying to be there and be present with them. And so since it was around Father's Day, that had me thinking, and it really had me thinking about you and your legacy, because you naturally have this instinct, God-given talent, to pour into people and to invest in people. And I think that is going to leave the most lasting relationship, because what I have seen in my personal life, what a legacy was just that you had enough money to provide to your family, and that was about it. And so when you say, hey, I know where I'm going, I know what I'm doing, I think that was so rare, because I've had to learn what that is. I've had to learn like, hey, who do I want to be and what do I want to leave behind? And my personal opinion is there's a ton of men who don't know how to answer that question, because they think that just what they provide or the job they do is their legacy, and it's not.
I think the legacy you leave behind is the life that you live every single day.
You can preach that.
People will say, Athena, why do you respond to people the way that you do? That is your legacy. That is what people are going to remember. Not like, and maybe it is a little bit different for me because, like my son was, that's the only child I will probably have. It's not like I'm going to have the opportunity to have children. So it's not like the way that we traditionally think about legacy. It's not like the estate we leave our kids. You know what I mean? Like it's more about like, what are we practicing every single day? So if I died tomorrow, what would people remember about me? That's what I leave behind. And so like, when you were talking about like legacy, what you're doing every single day, how you choose to respond to people, how you treat people. That is your legacy.
That's beautiful. And I like you've probably learned this about me, like there's surface and then there's here. And I
Right.
like to go here because to go here, you have had to take time to kind of get like deep within yourself and take time to do some introspection. And so, like, questions like that, questions about earlier, we're talking about worth and value, productivity, and who we are. I love that because I think very few of us are asking or having these conversations, right? Just think the conversations that spurred from you asking one question on social media. What do you think of rest days?
Oh yeah.
Boom, blew
Right?
up.
Who knew that was going to be as explosive as it was?
Yep.
Something as simple as a rest day.
Yep. But I love that though, because, and I've said this about you and I'll continue to say this. My personal opinion is there's a light and light has to be shown in the darkness, right? And you doing something simple as talking about a rest day just showed light on all these people who struggle to take a break and who struggle not fuel themselves, but to fill their cup up.
I mean, I hope it does. I'm trying not to get emotional. I hope it does. It really took me back that day. Like I had no idea that people struggled in that way.
You
And it
just
was
need,
so eye-opening for me.
you just need to do a live where it is just rest day with Athena
It's
and you
gotta be
just
like
take,
Truman Show.
well, no,
I don't know if people need to see all that.
no, but I was just saying, like, you just do a live stream and it's just you drinking coffee and just doing a Q&A. No sort of agenda, no nothing. Just you just there in your full Athena, right? Hey, guys, today's my rest day. So what I'm doing for my rest day is I just got done reading. I'm going to drink some coffee and sit outside the porch. I'm going to jump on, do a live, ask any questions you want. Just for so them to see, like, hey, she's taking a rest day. It's okay to take a rest day. I want to be a part of that.
I've never thought it would be so beneficial, but I mean, like,
Because
wow,
you struck a
we
chord.
talking about things. It
Yeah,
did.
it did.
It struck a chord with me too.
I love that though. But you
Just
know
didn't
that, like, you know that too, Athena. Like, that's how the Lord works. You're just the vehicle, and He just dropped that nugget in your head. And what you probably thought was like, this will be cool.
That's exactly what
Yeah.
happened. But that's exactly what happens on all of them. I
No,
see.
that's
Here I
great.
am thinking that I'm just getting curious. Like, I get 2 or 3 of the same answers, and I'm like, well, this is interesting. But maybe it's not curiosity. Maybe it's like, hey,
Well,
there's something that other people need to see. And the irony was that as soon as I started posting some of other people's responses, then other people were like, oh shit, that's me.
yeah, dude.
Oh shit,
Yes.
that's me. And I'm
Yes.
like, maybe the message wasn't for me. Maybe it was for them.
Because then they start seeing they're not alone. And when they
Right.
start seeing they're not alone, then we start to build this camaraderie of like, oh, wait a minute, they struggle with that. I struggle with that. Like
Right.
that's what I love. But for that to happen, authenticity had to happen first on your end to post that.
Well, I appreciate you explaining that to me. I've been
Dude.
thinking about that question for 2 weeks, honestly. And I was trying to come up with something different. And I'm like, I can't, Gordon.
I'm on a podcast. I'm recording a podcast this Thursday on like financial wealth. And they want me to talk about like the holistic view of wealth, right? Mental, spiritual, emotional, financial. And that's one thing I want to talk to them about is like your legacy that you're leaving behind is more than the amount of money you leave for your family. Like to what you said, it's your everyday interaction of how you're impacting your people. And it goes so far back as to what you said of like, if my cup isn't filled up by taking time for myself, I will not be fully present for my people. And if I'm not fully present for my people, I'm doing them a disservice. And just saying that out loud is just me challenging myself. Like, you son of a bitch, you can say it, but you won't do it.
Gordon, if you were to die tomorrow, what are those people that were feeling like you didn't have the energy for them? What are they going to remember? Because that's all they're going to remember.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one thing I think I probably, I overcompensate in, right? So coming from a household to where your productivity was tied into your grades and your sports. So I think I overcompensate a lot by showing up more than I should and stretching myself thin for people when I just should be showing up more for my own family inside of these doors. Because this is going to go much further than the people out there.
Can I ask you something?
Maybe. Yeah, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I was like,
son of a bitch.
was doing this adding too much?
No, so it's actually funny. When
And
I
you just
do
didn't
the
want to tell me.
no shit, no, I'll tell you.
Sure.
Yeah, positive. Doing these with you is very therapeutic for me because, like I said this earlier, you have the ability to go deeper, and I don't have these conversations with many people in my life. So, like, I'll leave this conversation filled up, and just the fact that, like, the Holy Spirit prompted you to say, "Hey, how are you doing?" gave me time to actually unload a little bit, which was so cool in the moment because I didn't plan to say any of that. I wasn't like, I'm going to tell Athena how I'm doing. No, I was just like, I told my buddies I work out with on Mondays and said, yo, we got to end early. I'm going to go have a conversation with one of my friends. It's going to be great. And they knew every 3 weeks we do this. And so I knew coming into this was just like, this will be soul filling. Excuse me.
Well, every 3 weeks now.
Yeah. Every 3 weeks starting now. And it was funny too, because I had to, before I jumped on here, I had to do some work and make a call that wasn't a fun call regarding work. And I was like, man, this is going to be a tough phone call. Then I have to go into this call with Athena. I don't want to be like Debbie Downer. But thankfully, they didn't answer. So I can push it off till tomorrow.
Well, good. Okay, good.
Yes. But I appreciate you.
I want you to know, like, I've noticed it's been noticeable over the last, 7 weeks. And I want you to be okay. And I don't want you to be afraid to tell me if it's too much.
Yeah.
Okay. We're good.
I like that. That was good. I think I remember that one time I told you, I was like, yo, send you a voicemail. I was like, yo, I got a lot going on right now. I was like, here's how you can pray for me. And so that's me like reaching out, being like, hey, here's what I got going on.
And I did.
Oh, I know you did. That's why I reached out to you. I only reach out to, this sounds bad, right? I only reach out to people who I know they're going to pray. I ain't reached out to all these, like, I'm only reaching out to my people who I know they're lifting that prayer up. They're not just sitting there saying, yeah, I'll do that for you.
Garrett shared this.
Oh, thanks, Garrett. I wonder where Garrett's at. I wonder what part of the world Garrett's in. I'm always fascinated by people who jump on these things. Like, where are they at in the world?
Sometimes I recognize first names. Like, I have a friend, Garrett. I don't know if it's the same Garrett, but the Garrett I know is out of, she and her wife live on the island, like that vacation island in New York, the Hamptons.
Oh, okay. I've never been up there.
Yeah. That's where, if it's the same Garrett.
If not, we've just made a new friend named Garrett from somewhere.
I was like, if not, it's a new Garrett, and she's probably from Nebraska.
Yes. Well, hey, I appreciate
anyway,
you.
I'll let you go, Gordon. I know that I've taken up weight. Yes, ma'am. Yes. You got it right. Nice to see you, Garrett. But anyway, well, thank you for all of this. And I look forward to our next one. I'm super excited to see who's going to be going to the games.
Dude, I love that you're doing that.
Stories.
Yes, I love that you're doing that. And like, for real, I'm not blowing smoke. Like, I would love to connect with that person because you're not going to sweat with me in Fort Worth. So I need someone to sweat with me in Fort Worth.
Carolyn's going to be there. What do you mean?
Carolyn is going to be busy. Very, very busy.
Look, Carolyn, look, they've all got to work out.
That is true.
Well, tell Annie I said hello.
I will. And also, I got a puppy named Thanos. And I'm going to tell my puppy you said hello as well.
That black and white one?
That black, absolutely right. That black and white one.
He's a cutie.
He's very cute. I appreciate you and love you very much.
Thank you. Right back at you. Tell Annie I said hello. Give her big hugs. And I'll see you on the next one, Gordon.
I will. See you, Athena.
Bye.